So in the news this week, I have a really interesting bit that was emailed to me. Interesting bit of news. It was a study that was done, admittedly sponsored by a company called Green Force, who are one of those vegan food, fake meat kind of companies. And therefore it could well be slightly biased, or at least that's what it originally looked like, but I looked into it a little bit. That said, basically eating a plant-based meal twice a week is the equivalent to planting 14 billion trees, is the headline. Now the headline is of course the little bit of a attention-grabbing sort of journalism, right? This is from The Beat, by the way. It's also on plant-based news and all that sort of stuff. So I thought 14 billion, that's an awful lot. And you read the thing, it says going meat-free 2 days a week is the equivalent to planting 14 billion. And then someone in there says there's this vegan powerlifter, this German bloke, I think he is. You might recognize him from that Game Changers documentary on Netflix, where, you know, that really shitty documentary, that really shoddy one. As he said, it's about 2 meals a day. So there's a bit of a dispute. So I looked into this a little bit, because 14 billion sounds a lot. But then again, what do I know, right? I'm just a little PT who knows how to do math. And I have an interest in environmental stuff, but when it comes to food, I mainly look at the nutritional elements and the health aspects of it. And of course, as I've said many times before, plant-based, predominantly plant-based meals, so 85% of your plate being vegetables or something like that, is significantly healthier for you than having 85% meat on your plate. And that is just the way it is. That is what the science says. But anyways, I took out my trusty calculator. Like I said, 14 billion trees. That sounds like a lot. Right? That sounds like an awful lot. So I looked into it. And I had a look at this. Like I said, this was every adult in the UK, or every person in the UK. I just went with person. Every person in the UK, so 62 million people going meat-free for 2 meals per week, and the effects that had. And now, you know, we'll go by beef, for instance. And apparently a kilo of beef to produce that is 70 kilos. So 1 kilo of beef takes 70 kilos of carbon, produces 70 kilos of carbon emissions, which is, you know, quite a lot. I didn't know, right? There's a lot of this was news. It was news to me. So then I looked up carbon offset per tree and all that sort of stuff. And apparently a typical tree can absorb around 21 kilos of carbon dioxide per year. So one tree, you know, does about 300 grams worth of beef, which is about a meal, but that's per year, right? So that is quite something. Now, how do we get to that 14 billion then? Well, first of all, we have to divide the 14 billion. In my opinion, this is how I did it. 14 billion, you have to divide it by 62 million. Which is about 225. Don't worry, I've done the math for you. So that's 225. 14 billion divided by 62 million. That's 225. And that's per year. Now that doesn't sound that much, 225 trees per year. But yeah, so all of a sudden that 14 billion sounds a lot more realistic. And we know it takes 3 trees per year for a kilo of beef. So all of a sudden that sounds reasonable. Right? That sounds, as in, it sounds genuinely achievable. That 14 billion is all of a sudden not a crazy number. Right? So assuming I don't always have beef and all that sort of stuff. But you know, assume I have a 200 gram piece of beef, that actually 150 gram piece of beef, right? Per meal. So small, a very small steak. That's about 3/4. It's about 3/4 of a normal size steak. Normal size steak is 227 grams in the UK. So 150 gram of beef twice a week that I no longer eat. So that's 300 grams of beef And I do that for 365 days. So we know one tree does 300 grams of beef. So I'm saving 365 trees a year by not having 300 grams of beef. So not significantly more than the 225. So if anything, and this is the mind-boggling thing for me, if anything, that 14 billion is an underestimation of the actual number. Now, of course, I used beef, but I used chicken has a lower carbon footprint, and so does pork. But I used a very low quantity, that 150 gram figure. I used a very low number of beef, and that's astonishing. So it turns out that this is true. This stupid headline, which annoyed me no end, and that is even what that strongman, the ambassador for this thing, and I better give him some credit here, Patrick Baboumian, what he was saying, 2 meals per day. So you don't even need to go vegan for two days, just 2 dinners. That where you currently eat meat, that you're not going to have meat anymore, saves 14, is the equivalent of planting 14 billion fully grown trees per year. It's astonishing. I mean, that is huge to me. A game changer, if you will, to refer to that stupid thing. I'm not saying go vegan, because I won't, or go vegetarian. I'm just saying that the people that are saying it's all or nothing are clearly wrong. Small decisions have, when it comes to this stuff, and going meat free 1 day a week. If everybody did that, that's 7 billion trees a year, or maybe probably 10 near what my calculations are saying. That is a huge, huge difference. Doesn't sound like a lot, but you try finding a space to plant 7 billion trees in the UK. It's astonishing. I was genuinely surprised, because I thought when I was running the calculation, when I had a look at the numbers, I thought, nah, this sounds too much. This sounds wrong. And I did the Santa trick. I checked my list. I checked it twice. Checked my numbers twice, and turned out, if anything, they underestimated it. So there you go. Turns out all these crusty people, they're all right. Anyways, that's it for the podcast. We're running 118, 120 minutes, bit of music. So before you know it, you spent an hour and a half listening to this thing. Anyways, you have a tremendous week. I'm back next week with that interview with Dr. David Prologo, which is a fascinating chat as well. You have a great week, and as always, peter@healthyplusnatalbody.com. If you have anything, or you come across any interesting information that you want to send my way, it's always much appreciated. I love getting this sort of news. All right, thank you very much for listening. Have a great week. Bye now.